So I've pulled up my bobbin thread, and now in my hand I have both threads, and I've placed my needle in the down position, which is what you always want to set your machine to do, is end with the needle down so that it holds your space. And what I'm going to do is take these two threads, pull them off to the side nice and taut, wrap them around a corsage pin about 2 or 3 times, secure them into my fabric. This is just going to hold my two threads off to the side so that I don't have to do 2 or 3 extra stitches in order to secure both threads. And I'm ready to get going, so you can see here that I have my needle in the down position right along the edge of my applique shape. I'm set up in constant mode at a speed of 14, and I'm going to start my stitching. So you can see that I'm just outlining the applique shape, taking a small little bite into the applique piece. That is going to secure my applique piece. Now what's important to know is that you want your little bite, your stitch that takes a little bite out of the applique shape, to be at a consistent angle with your outlining. So I've got this at about a 90-degree angle to the edge of the applique, and I want that to stay consistent as I work my way around. Very important to stitch nice and slowly so that you stay in control. I like to use the constant mode because I find myself getting into a nice rhythm with the hum of the machine. And I'm just working my way all the way around this shape. And what's wonderful about this technique is that there is no set direction. I can go any way I want to. Now, maybe I get to this point and I decide that I want to add a little bit of background quilting. So I'm going to switch it to regulated mode, and I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of background quilting in here. And I'm going to work my way over to another applique shape. So I'm going to show you a different stitch that you can do. Now this one would be appropriate to use regulated mode, and I've got a stitch per inch of 15, so my stitches are nice and small. And I'm just going to kind of create this little wavy line kind of back and forth. Now what's really fun is you can go ahead and kind of add other little details when you're stitching. So maybe I want to add a little bit of movement with these little curlicue shapes, and then work my way back over doing my little wavy line design. Any stitch that you can do on your domestic machine can be mimicked here on your long arm machine. So study some of your stitches that you have in your domestic machine and experiment and play to get the look that you want. So you can see that this decorative stitch that I'm doing is both securing my applique shape and adding a really fun design. I've chosen a contrasting thread so that you could see my stitching really well. But of course, if you want something that is going to be invisible, then you would just choose a thread that would be either coordinating with your applique piece or even an invisible thread. And that is how you do free motion applique. So now I am going to work on outlining these letters. And I need to find a little bit more control for this technique because I want to stay right close to the edge. Now the fabric that I'm using is ultra suede, which does not ravel, so that's fantastic because I don't have to worry about securing the edges. They're not going to ravel. So I'm just going to get real nice and close to the edge of my applique shape. I'm going to use my ruler that I've developed to gain more control when you're outlining applique. So I'm going to attach this to my hopping foot. And what that's going to do is just give me a little hand here so that I can guide my machine with a little bit more accuracy. And now again I'm going to go over to the regulated mode, and I've got 15 stitches per inch, so I'm just going to start it, and then I'm just going to get nice and close here and just work my way around the letters, outlining these shapes and securing them. Now as I'm Here I might just kind of work my way right on over. That's the beauty of this technique. Now you can see here what will happen if you don't use enough glue. Sometimes you can grab the edges of your applique shape either with your hopping foot or with your ruler or any guide that you might have. So that is an example of why it's important to make sure that you're using a liberal amount of washable glue so that those applique pieces stay. And it's okay if that happens. Simply just pull it back and add a little bit of glue right here at your workspace. And again, just work your way right on, finding the rhythm that works for you. So some people want to work a little bit slower while others maybe a little bit faster. So here I am going to want to add some glue to that and secure that a little bit better before I continue. So if you find that your piece needs a little bit more glue, if you didn't use quite enough and it's starting to kind of pop up, then all you're going to do is just bring a sheet of wax paper right onto your workspace, pull your applique piece over onto it so that this kind of protects your background fabric, and then you're just going to use a really, really good amount of glue. You can see I'm really getting crazy with the glue here because I don't want these applique pieces to be popping up. And this is all that I'm using is just a washable glue stick. It won't harm your machine. I do let it set a bit before I start my quilting and just give it a good amount of glue on all the edges. And sometimes it even helps to have your ruler base and your machine right here so that you can have a nice stable surface to glue. And then you're just going to bring it right back over and secure it and wait for that to kind of set up, and then you can continue on your way with that piece. And just to talk a little bit about some of the designs that I've done here, you can see that what I showed you here was an applique stitch where you're just outlining the edge of the applique shape, taking that little tiny bite at a 90-degree angle, and that's going to secure your shape. Here I've used a contrasting thread, a nice metallic thread, so you can see my stitching, whereas on this shape I've used a thread color that's going to just coordinate with my applique shape. So it's not going to show as much of the stitch, but instead more of a texture. So that is a look that you might prefer. Maybe you want to kind of mix the two different looks together and you can get any result that you want. This is my little wavy line, and if you've ever quilted a design called ribbon candy, that's basically what I'm doing here, just kind of a wavy line. And I'm extending it to the edge of the applique shape, so it's both securing the applique and creating a fun design right along the edge of this little circle. So that is my free motion applique technique, and I hope that you will play with this at home and experiment.